Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. We have a chance to work on a Penn Conflict reel, and I guess it's been in some conflict. This is the Conflict 4000, and it was sent in by Captain Butch on the Fishing Magician. He's out of Florida, and well, this one's got a noticeable click, click, click going on in there, and I took the opportunity earlier to assess the damage. What we have is we have a broken gear, and when you have a broken gear, it's the main gear that drives the oscillation system. When you have that broken gear, you should replace the oscillation gear, and I went so far as to get a replacement axle shaft as well, because when I was looking at it, I'm not sure if it's coming up square. So we're going to show you how to rebuild this reel and get this one back out to that Fishing Magician guide service so that, well, he can keep fishing. We're going to start by removing the exterior pieces and parts. That's the spool that came off first. And to do the spool, you just remove the tension adjuster, and that will enable you to pull up and out on the spool. Then we're going to remove our bump guard and side plate and handle assembly. And while I do that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you like the art of servicing fishing reels, if you like to learn about fishing reels, how they are made, how they are serviced, and in some cases how they are repaired because of a break or something in the parts side of it. Well, then this is a good channel for you. I work on all kinds of reels. Today I'm working on a nice versatile 4000 size spinning reel. This one can be used, well, from surf, from pier, from boat, inshore, in freshwater, inshore ocean. And a lot of times I get asked, I'm going to buy my first reel, what should I buy? And once we narrow it down to whether you're going to buy a bait caster or a spinning reel, the size becomes important. And well, the recommendation is normally a 4000 size reel because, well, you can use it in a lot of different places. And particularly with braid, you don't have to worry too much about capacity. But a 4000 size reel is an ideal starting point. If you're predominantly in freshwater, you can step down to the 3000 size, get that same versatility. And if you're predominantly in saltwater, you can move up to the 5000, which is going to give you more line capacity for the surf. All right, I'm going to take the side plate off. As I noted, I've had this off already because I had to check for damage. There's something not right when the reel goes clunk, clunk, clunk. And I will show you that damage in a moment. I didn't get very far with this. I was able to see it pretty quickly. The problem that you have with these reels is if you break a gear, you've got teeth that break off of those usually. And you never know where those teeth are going to get lodged. You never know what damage it's going to cause. To remove the axle shaft, we want to remove the tie-down screw and the crosswind block. Then we can pull up and out on the axle shaft. And I found that this one seems to be okay. All right, we're going to pull out the main gear now, and here's the issue. You can see that we're just missing a whole bunch of teeth right here, and where those teeth are in the reel is always a good question, and we're going to take the time to clean out the inner parts of this reel because we just don't know where they are. Just don't go pull apart and replace it on something like this, because that's dangerous. If that set of teeth is somehow missing, if it's caught in the grease inside here, wherever it may be, you don't want to run the risk that jars loose along the way and jams up the next one. I can see at least one tooth in that, probably two, in that grease right there. I don't know if you can see that or not. There you go. This is at least one, if not two teeth, and that's why you want to clean the assembly. To do a complete cleaning, we want to take the top off. And if you're servicing this reel without any issues regarding the performance of the reel or anything. Well, you would certainly want to take this off anyway, because there's a pinion gear in here that needs to get cleaned, and there's also a bearing in here that needs to get lubricated. There's actually 2 bearings in here. So to do that, you want to remove the tie-down clip first. And when I take these pieces and parts off, I like to put them right into a parts tray. You'll see some of the earlier pieces and parts that I took off, and that's my way of organizing the parts as they come off. If you don't have a system before you start doing this, you're going to find yourself in trouble, because pieces and parts tend to go missing, and well, if they start to go missing and it's time to reassemble, 1, you're not going to know where they are, and 2, you may forget what part of the assemblies they go to. Alright, I'm going to take the 3 screws that hold this collar off. And if you worked on Penn reels, or if you're watching this because you're wondering about the Penn reels, these reels are remarkably consistent in this top end. It's an assembly that has 2 bearings and the anti-reverse clutch. And whether it's a battle or a fierce or a conflict or, well, any of those reels, you're going to find that they're pretty much the same. All right, I want to just put a little bit of oil in here to kind of loosen that up. And while that's kind of working its way there, I'm going to clean off that side plate case. Clean off and check this crosswind block. I want to make sure that we don't have any teeth in there. Clean that crosswind gear. Same thing, right? This is the one that the pieces could lodge in, and so you want to check all of the teeth, make sure that you don't have a piece there. Take the collar and put that out, and then we should be able to remove this. Now sometimes you'll find it's a little difficult to do that. Just take your rotor, put that back on without that tie-down collar. Put your rotor nut back on, and then use the rotor as a handle to pull it off that way. So you can see how easily it pulled off with just a little extra leverage. So if you can't grab the top end of this, just use it that way, and it'll work fine. Alright, we have a collar and a bearing. That's a sealed bearing, so you don't need to do anything. You can't get oil in it, and the oil shouldn't come out of it. Then we have the anti-reverse collar and the bottom bearing. Notice on your anti-reverse, we're doing a good cleaning here. On your anti-reverse, the bottom end of this has got a plastic. The top end of this is metal. So remember that orientation when you go to reinstall. There's a little bearing seal that's the last piece on that post. And once we have all of those out and cleaned, we want to take a moment to clean the pinion gear. I'm using a hard bristled brush to pull through on that. I'm pulling it through onto a paper towel so that it doesn't clog my work surface. And then, like the others, because that gear broke, we want to check to make sure there is no damage to your pinion gear. Put that bearing seal on first, the little shim washer, then the bearing. And we're going to put the anti-reverse on with the metal side facing up. On the collar, you have one side that's got an indentation to it. The other side's flat. The indentation side goes down. That's your gear stack. And because, again, it's the sealed bearings, you do not need to put any oil or grease into that. Take a moment then to get the rest of this up. We don't know if there's any more teeth hiding in there. I think I see one right there. But you got to get all those old pieces and parts out of there. And for that, I am using a cotton swab. And once you're satisfied that you got it all, we can go about rebuilding this reel. I'm not sure if that's a tooth there. One more spurt just for fun. We're going to use a penetrating oil here as a degreaser. I'll bring that on and up and out. So I didn't get a chance to talk to Captain Butch and his guide service there. Kind of wondering how this happened. Could be the fish of a lifetime that broke it off, right? You never know. Okay. We're going to replace the axle shaft. As I mentioned, there's always a chance when these things get out of sorts that the axle shaft bends. We don't want to do that. There is a clip here that you need to walk up out of the groove. I never have luck with these darn things. I was just working on them the other day. But you have to walk it up. You can't pull it out over the side. If you pull it out over the side, what's going to happen is it's going to spread the clip. And then you're going to lose the spring in it. All right. I have that little clip off. I should be able to remove the bearing, remove the washer, set the old axle shaft aside, and we'll get the new one. So we're going to replace the axle shaft, the crossline block, the crossline gear, and the main gear. So some folks might think that's a little bit of overkill, but the parts aren't that expensive, and if you miss one, well, you just wasted a lot of time and energy to have a poorly performing reel. So you might as well rebuild the reel for the cost. I think the crossline gear is only a couple of dollars. The crossline block, same. We're reusing the bearing here, so that's pretty good. Okay, so we've got the pieces and parts. We're going to go ahead and put those on now. Interestingly enough, I'm looking at this, and the code on this one is 4000 SG. SG is the Sargus. So even though we're in a conflict reel, the Sargus actually was an early version. You had the Penn Sargus and the Penn Captiva were predecessors to the Battle Fierce conflict lines, but a lot of those pieces and parts did carry over, and well, the crossline block appears to be one of those. We're going to take our 3 screws. We're going to remount the collar here. I probably could have greased that pinion gear before. Not a problem. We'll put the grease on once I tie this down. I hope you're taking pictures along the way, if I didn't mention that. But taking pictures with whatever your image capture device is, that's a short term for your phone, your camera, your tablet, whatever it is that you may be taking pictures with. Take it at critical junctions along the way. That way you can see the pieces and part orientation. And if you get stuck, well, it's a reference point back to where you were to help you get unstuck. I did mention we'll put some grease on. When you're servicing your reel, please use fishing reel grease. I'm using Penn's grease. It's Penn Precision Reel Grease. It's available online. I like it because it comes in 1-pound containers. You don't need the 1-pound containers. They sell them in much smaller, like 1 ounce sections with the reel oil. And those 1 ounces will last you a dozen reels, so not to worry. You don't need to go out and buy the 1-pound container. Grease on the back, on the teeth, on the face of your oscillation block. When you put your oscillation block in, make sure that you move the stud to the bottom so that when you bring the axle shaft in, you will be able to mount that screw that you saw me take out earlier. Okay, I've greased up that crossline block, but we're going to hold for a minute there. We want to put our rotor back on. For the rotor, we want to oil our line roller and oil the seams of the bail. And here I'm noticing we have a little bit of corrosion inside there. Just work it in and out. If that bail is tripping, you do not need to take the bail off. This one's doing fine. All right, let's put this back on. Notice that there is a plastic axle ferrule or whatever the term for that thing may be in there. It just helps to stabilize the axle going up and down. You just need to know that it belongs in there. It may have come off on your axle when you did that. And if it did, just make sure that you put it back in there when you go to reinstall. I like these nut caps. You can't over tighten them. Put them on by hand first. That's going to enable you to make sure that it's not cross-stripped. And we can put our tie-down clip back on and grab that tie-down screw. That's going to hold that cap in place. What that does is that prevents the rotor nut from working itself off while the rotor is spinning. Alright, that's in. Now we can go back and grab our crosswind block. Make sure that it seats over the stud on that oscillation gear. And then we'll take our main gear. This one comes with a complete set of teeth. You can see how it's an aluminum gear, I believe. And folks ask me about that all the time. Well, the old Mitchell 300s were aluminum gears, so it's not an unusual thing to have. And again, when you find that you broke one, this is usually a pretty good and rather inexpensive way to make sure that everything is good. Once you have the grease on the axle shaft, bring it through, merge it into your crosswind block, and then go get the tie-down screw for that crosswind block. The only thing we need to do now is just transfer the shim washer from the old main gear to the new one, and the bearing. In this case, there's two shim washers. If you find that the new one is a little tight, you might want to remove one of them, because the specs on each main gear is a little bit different. Alright, again, a sealed bearing, so nothing you can do there. Bearing case. Let's go ahead and grab those 3 side plate screws. And this one was really an exercise on how to rebuild them, basically the entire inside of this reel. But we'll go ahead and show you how to do the drag washers too, because this is a full service for the reel in addition to fixing the piece that's broken. But these are generally nice reels. There's not a lot of difference between these and the Penn Battles. At one point in time, I guess, there was a step up. It's probably in the case. There might be one more bearing in there. I'd have to take a look. Maybe bigger drag washers, possibly. But not a lot of difference between the two reels. As I mentioned, that upper set, that the bearings, they're identical. The bearings on the main gear are identical. The design is very similar. Right, you have a bump cord that goes below. Let's put that on. That bump cord's there in case you hit a rail or something with the bottom of the reel. You'll break the bump guard and not the case. It's kind of a fail-safe. And those of you that know me and small screws know that it's always an adventure. That should work. There we go. Alright, let's just take a look at the drag washers above. It says that they're HT100 drag washers. So let's grab those. And again, there's a lot of dirt in there. Top end drag systems like this one always grab a lot of dirt because the line is coming down wet over the top of the reel, And despite the engineering of those adjuster buttons, water does get in here, and water does carry the dirt down. So whenever you're servicing a reel, you do want to make sure that you clean out the cavities where those drags go, because that old dirt can grind, become abrasive, and shorten the life of your drag washers. This drag washer set uses the drag washers as the keyed washers. It has the 4 lobes on it, and they go in each of those slots. And with the Penn reels and this setup with the HT100, greasing those drag washers is optional. Now this is only a 2 drag or 4 washer set, 2 metal, 2 drag washers. A lot of them have the 3 washer set, and perhaps that happens at the 5,000 size, but that does limit your max drag. Max drag is a function of surface area, and with less drags you have less surface area, you have less holding capability. Alright, we've just put the clip in. Going to go realign and bring this over. We'll bring this down, put the handle on, and give it a final test here. Tighten it up, make sure that the drag washers are holding. That's a whole lot of tightening. And then back them off so that you don't leave them compressed and harm them by squeezing them down. All right, let's put that handle back on. And let's see how we did. We shouldn't have a thump any longer. We should have a nice smooth turning wheel. There you go. So your Penn Conflict is back, ready to go fishing. Just test to make sure your bail fires. We know the drags are holding. This one's ready to go fishing again. So main cause, broken teeth. We wanted to make sure that we didn't have any other damaged parts, so we took the time to replace the others, the axle shaft and the crosswind block and oscillation gear. Again, probably a few dollars more for the parts, but an ounce of prevention, right? You never know where those teeth could have flown off to, and well, it's just a nice precaution to take for just a few dollars more. Okay, those parts go back to Captain Butch. The reel goes back to Captain Butch, and I go back to doing something else. So I want to thank our first responders and our police, fire, safety, and rescue folks for their career choice and dedication to task. I always appreciate it and always like to send out my thanks to them. I want to thank you for watching. I want to encourage you to keep your reels serviced, and well, if something breaks, take the time to fix it as soon as possible. That way you don't risk breaking other pieces and parts in the reel. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody a great day.